the goal is to have a lot of this kind of initial upfront work done for you by, and there's a reason why we call it our remote lead manager. Okay, these are not VAs. I just want to make sure I'll highlight that, because again, I'm speaking from a operator perspective, right? I'm looking as a business owner, not somebody that's like, this is kind of what I built as an app and I don't really know what the hell's going on in the real world. There's a whole lot of those out there, right? But the reason why this is crucially important, a lot of people fail miserably when they use a VA that's meant for data entry. Like, dude, you're using somebody that's meant to do like skip trace, not skip tracing, or like, uploading sheets, reconciling stuff, manual repetitive stuff to do your sales process. This is a sales process. You send out 100 messages, you're gonna get 30 responses back. Those are people who want to talk to you. So we needed to make sure that we were able to have a true remote lead manager run this in a way that wouldn't cost you all your data. Your KPI for text messaging should be how many text messages per lead are you getting, or per deal are you getting, right? To make sure that that stayed very competitive and you weren't just burning through skip tracing costs and data, which that's what every single user tells us that switches over from other platforms, because they're doing it wrong. The goal is to do 80% of the work for you, right? The whole 80-20 paradigm that applies to anything in business, in sales, right? So you're doing the 20%. Because text messaging, as intuitive as Launch is now, and even more intuitive as Launch is going to become, you still have to have people go through the initial, warm-up conversations, things like that, which is where most of the time is spent. And then I think Steve, right before we kind of jumped into this, he's gonna, elaborate exactly what the team does on his end. I couldn't have said it better, Steve, so I'll let you come back to that. But the goal is to create more time, right? So you go on more appointments or more discovery calls. The goal is to use this process, right? So whether you have a list, right? And one of the things we added in here, since I'm pretty sure that everybody and their mom, that even though she may not use it, has a PropStream account, is to be able to have them do as much of the busy work, and by that I mean the RLM, for you, including the main piece, which is actually doing the texting for you intuitively and utilizing the methodology that we've built in here in my organization that's much different from anybody else is doing anything else out there. That's why we're able to get a KPI of an average of about 2,500 to 3,000 text to a deal. I try to say that because sometimes it's even lower than that. Sometimes we're at like 700 to 1,000, and it's not a special list. It's not where's the next water shutoff list or a freaking tax delinquent. It's not a listing, dude. It's how you work deals down. It's how you work leads down. And then when does your acquisition team jump in, or when do you jump in to take it down, right? Because you can get burnt out in the front end real quick. So the goal of the RLM is to do that, to basically push you the hot leads, right? So you're able to do what you do best, which is get on the call, get on the phone, go on the appointment, take them down, right? Not be prospecting, because your time is worth more than that if you're on this webinar, especially, right? So the end goal is to also continue to supply this machine, if you want to call it that, with consistent leads, with consistent discovery calls, with consistent, appointments, et cetera, et cetera. So you're not, going on 3 appointments, 5 appointments, whatever the case is, and then you're going back, putting Launch on hold for about a week. We've all done this version of marketing, like rodeo. And then like, all right, I'm going to start up the machine back on, like start that shed back on. We're going to need more deals, right? And they're like, well, I don't know why the next month didn't happen, right? But bottom line is like, look, we've all been there. I'm not trying to knock the process or knock the game. I've been there, Steve and I've been there. We talked about it multiple times. It takes a while to get it dialed in. So this is why this service is invaluable. And this is before we get to the ROI aspect. And lastly, look, we're trying to even expand this even further as far as what their RLM's roles and responsibilities are. Bob's got it dialed in as much on the actual, they pretty much offer everything. I mean, look, if you need somebody to do your marketing, if somebody to do your admin stuff, or pretty much do your cold calling, it's all done. I've seen many people try, and this is why this is not a month kind of test project, and we're like, all right, let's roll it out. It took us over 6 months. I think it's definitely over 6 months. So 8 plus.
Hey, Aaron, let me take a step back too. One of the reasons why we started this as well is because of the pain point we all have. Like for me, and I know Steve and Hunter were talking about this before, but when you start using any type of platform and you start sending text messages out and they all start coming back and they all start coming out, all of a sudden you're on an appointment. All of a sudden, all of that marketing stops. So the end result of the reason why we actually started this is to make sure that we always talk about this in our businesses. We need to have consistent marketing going and consistent follow-up. So, what Aaron's talking about in this process is to make sure that when it's plugged in, it consistently gets done every single day. For us, it's Monday through Friday. So not every single day on the weekends, but for us, it's Monday through Friday, because I know for a fact in my business, once we stop marketing, we have no business. So with the return on investment that we're going to cover with Hunter and Steve in the next upcoming slides, it's really important for me to highlight and us to highlight that particular aspect, because I know we all feel that pain. And that's one of the pain points in any business, doesn't matter what, but especially text messaging, because I went through it myself and I started text messaging and I'm like, screw this, dude. I'm out. I got Jex, who's my RLM, and he does it every single day, and it's incredible.
The concept here is, and we kind of broke this down, Bob's team did, as far as what does it take to close, right, multiple deals. Let's just analyze what the total cost would be. So this is just an example here where you see LaunchControl is 500, right? Let's say your RLM, because again, LaunchControl is 500 and that includes unlimited texts. The only thing, how we scale it is based on how many contacts you have or you can upload per month. So on that plan, it's 10,000 contacts, and they just continue to compound. Next month is additional 10, next month additional 10. So my point is, in 10 months, you have 100,000+ contacts. But it's how well you work through those contacts that you upload each month, right?
And Aaron, just to clarify, so I know some other platforms out there just really nickel and dime you off store, like on storefronts. They're like, wow, it's way more inexpensive, but it's triple the cost in the end because of all of your text messages are included with nurtures, etc. Could you just expand on that? Because I know there's false advertising that I've seen, and I just want to make sure that's disclosed here. Right.
So it's basically just doing your math, right? Let's say you do, you do 10,000 contacts, right? And that includes landlines, cell phones, whatever the case is. Some platforms don't even take that out. So you're actually texting landlines, you don't even know about it, right? So you immediately are paying for the things that you're not using. So when you're looking at things that are charging that are super a la carte, just add everything back up together, and you should get to a number that probably out exceeds this. Because there's a reason why, airlines, cars, car dealers, whatever, they unbundle everything. And when you put it back together, that one flight on Frontier is no longer that cheap, right? So the point of the matter is you want to make sure you're looking at the whole picture. So if you're texting, you're getting charged per text. One, what does that add up to later on, right? So does that add up to, the same exact amount? Do they have drip campaigns that are included in that at no cost, which we do? Are they pulling out cell phone numbers? Are they looking at your duplicates? Are you texting your same numbers again? So we identify all of that. We also include litigator scrub, which basically just takes away the headache of getting sued for no reason. Because again, we do have the legal right to be able to text sellers and ask them if they want to sell the property. So the end goal, not to get too deep into this, is looking at, what does it all mean, right? So when you're looking at a comparison of, let's say, an average deal that nets $12,000, which I think it's a good national average to use. So the crazy thing with texting, because think of direct mail, which, probably everybody here on this call has done one way or another, right? Direct mail works on how many pieces you send out each time, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly. If you want to send more direct mail and get more deals in, you have to pay for those pieces. So once you're on a texting plan, like the core plan I just showed, that's $500 a month, that's unlimited texting. And then basically you have a remote lead manager that's able to go through as much data, go through as much follow-up, even though a lot of it's automated, like Steve was saying before. So that actually brings your cost per deal down or keeps it static for the most part, unless you either need more data, right? Which data is like, you get a one fixed plan at PropStream or any other providers, and that should be fairly minimal. And then the only other cost should be really, does it cost you more money to get those skip traced, that data? And does it cost you maybe, do you want to take the RLM full time, right? So you're able to process more deals, you're able to process more leads coming in, et cetera, right? But for the most part, if you're looking at like a direct mail or PPC, you're paying per lead, you're paying per mail drop. So the cost per deal average, this is a very glossed over concept. The cost per deal continues to compound versus when you're on one plan with Launch, your only other costs are the ancillary ones.
Like you said, I think we started about a year ago at this point, but we didn't jump directly into text like, hey, we're doing all text and nothing else.
Yep.
So we've dabbled with every form of marketing, web leads. We were even driving for dollars, direct mail, like you kind of went over. We did Facebook cold calling. We had cold callers calling on our behalf. Referrals, wholesalers. We're reaching out to, wholesalers to try to get flip properties. So we've done all the forms of marketing. And then we really started to ramp up because of the value we saw it creating for us with LaunchControl. And then once we got our REVA Global RV, what do you call them? RLM.
I know we went a little fancy.
The RLM. Yeah, I'm not used to that lingo yet. But once we got Jill, I'm telling you, it was a huge game changer for us. So
because before that, sign her up, Hunter, you were doing everything, right? So you were that 80 and the 20.
Yeah, and so I was actually. So here's kind of how it started. At late fall of last year, I was doing all the texting, all of the calling, and we had actually two of us responding to all of our leads. And I would say I'd spent 80% of my time texting, 20% making calls, following up, trying to go on appointments, get contracts. And then once we got Jill on board with REVA Global, now I'm serious. I literally don't go in LaunchControl but once a month. And we were sending 1,000 texts a day. And we've kind of gone low and high on that, just based upon how many leads we were generating. I'd say at average on, we got all these numbers here. I could talk to those, but I probably get 10 warm to hot leads a week, which is, 40 a month. And the conversion rate. So let's just say in the second quarter, I think we brought in, 25 contracts in just those 3 months. Not all of those came to fruition. I think it was around 20 that we actually got, all the way through the line. But one thing that I will mention is we do other forms we don't just do wholesaling. We do all kinds of different forms. So we'll do flips, we'll do wholesale. We've been doing a lot of different, forms of creative investing with a lot of these leads. And so my experience with LaunchControl has been great because it's only ever improved, continue to improve and improve and improve. And we get all these new features, and it's like Christmas every month or something. We get all these features. And then with Jill on board, it's just so easy because I just pull up my CRM and not only do I have like 5 new leads in, midweek, but I also have a calendar invite on my calendar where she's just boom, popped it on my calendar and said, hey, call this point. And we've gone mostly virtual at this point. So as a result of coronavirus, we kind of changed with the times a little bit. And we started just trying to get deals under contract over the phone. And it's been super successful for us because North Georgia, Greenville, South Carolina, and kind of the greater North Georgia, South Carolina areas, they're kind of big. So to go on appointments sometimes could take 2 to 4 hours. Well, now we're closing up all our contracts. And the cool thing about it is that we brought that forward to the text messages and our canned responses and everything to where it sets us up to have basically 3 calls, get a contract. And if not, then we're putting them in a follow-up campaign, either back in LaunchControl or in our CRM.
What it comes down to is net. I think we took this as an average when you, Travis, and I and Sam were putting this together. So it basically nets out the past from year to date to basically 5.5 contracts, and that nets to 4.5 deals per month. Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing, and it's not on this, I think it was on the previous page, but we said our average cost per deal was $977 for lead.
Everything.
And that number is, again, it's kind of loaded because that's that's not taking into account all the equity we're getting. We're doing, we're taking subject to owner finance deals now, and we're getting a huge bit of equity. And so that's not even taking that. That's straight up.
That's a good point. I should point that out, because that's becoming obviously a much more popular way of taking out deals. The same thing we're doing.
And also that also includes my fee and Jill's fee, by the way. So that number's loaded.
Yeah. So that's a great point. And I think that other stat there towards the bottom of follow-up metrics, I mean, that's where, look, I think we have definitely close to like 150 users that have come from other platforms, right? This is where everything fails, right? And I've done this wrong way and the right way, but people send out like thousands of messages a day, and they're looking for the first guy to be like, hey, Bob, I'm your guy. I'll sell for $10,000 today. Like, the whole name of the game, like, you listen to Grant Cardone or anybody else in sales, like, it's just a sales thing. Like, all of the money is in the follow-up. It's how well do you work that list. It's not what list you're hitting, right? Are you going to get some from this ultra stacked, triple water shutoff bypass, whatever shit list you want to call it, right? This super secret list. Yeah, you might. But at the same time, like, if you apply the same principle of the reason why we built in the drip campaigns is, again, most of the deals, like, we've gotten a deal that we started with last July, 2019, in this year. A year's difference, right? Because we're able to continue that follow. But if you want to touch on that, Hunter, otherwise we'll keep,
Yeah. So I completely agree. I think the most important piece of launch control, and then having someone do it for you, is the follow-up, because one, it takes time, and two, it's the most important. I would say most of our deals came from second or third passes on owners or leads.
Yeah.
I want to say from drip campaign, recently from drip campaign, at least 3 of our contracts came from a drip, right? So we had thrown them in a drip campaign, fire forget, and then they end up becoming a lead, a warm or hot lead in our CRM, and the big piece of that is timing. So a lot of the sellers aren't ready at a certain point, but the next time, the next pass, the next time you hit them, they are ready.
Yeah. So, I mean, everything that you guys have talked about is super on point. And I've known Aaron now for a couple of years. We started LaunchControl, I think, back when it was just, kind of in its
first
beta phase.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I've been a LaunchControl member for quite some time now. And that picture of the roller coaster that you guys had up there. Oh man, I can relate to that, right? And like, still, like, to this day, like, I think it's important to point out, like, it doesn't really matter what stage of life cycle your business is in, like, you will still experience those peaks and valleys. Like, if I said, we came away unscathed during COVID, like, I'd be lying to you. Like, we had in April just a shitty month, like, just record low shit, right? But then we made a quick pivot, and like the value, a couple things I wrote down here is like knowing your numbers, right? And I'll get into this here because, like, this is super important when you're making business decisions, which really kind of help that roller coaster from happening and being able to prevent it. But making that quick decision there, okay, like direct mail, COVID, like, people aren't, afraid, like, people are so afraid of touching something right now that chances of them opening up mail is very, very low probability, especially when, it definitely doesn't look like anything government related or whatever. So, like, I think we actually, based on our numbers here, we just eliminated it. So then we've had some success with text messaging before, but our consistency on it, right? Like, I have acquisitions team, and them going in, like, we have a whole cold call system set up, and we have different leads coming in from different places. And our whole business model now is making sure that they're doing 20% of the work. Like you guys said, the 80-20 work, right? So I don't want them doing all of that other stuff. I don't want them doing that 80%. I want them doing that 20%, which is going to bring us the return, right? And really working and following up and nurturing, like, those hotter leads. Like, that's where they're successful. Everything else, can be outsourced now, this is a mistake that we've made, is we've done the VA that's kind of like a data analyst. We've learned, and that's like the roller coaster again. Like we've learned from all of those things. And when, you brought in the service of LaunchControl, and then I met Bob at a mastermind, and then you brought it all together. This is when, I know Bob, I know what he's about. I think character and business, it needs to be there, because if I'm going to do something with the company, like it's very important, like I know more about the person too, because the person running the business, like I don't want to do business with someone shady, right? And so once I got all that, and then we hired our VA back in June, that's when things, like for us, it's like, okay, now we can be consistent. We can gain momentum here, because like we were not going anywhere with this. We were getting a few deals here and there, but like our effort was like half-assed at best, right? Like we just didn't have the time. So it's kind of there, it's still going, but we're still getting deals other ways. So, it wasn't there. Brought in our VA. We've now hired a second one because it's going so well. And just to kind of give you an idea, this is what you're seeing here on this page. The way that we've worked this now, so like every lead that comes into our system as a valid or valid interested lead, that means like they're motivated. There's some degree of motivation. We track. And to give you an idea, so like this month, through text messaging, we've had 742 leads come through. We've had 25 of those turn into opportunities. So now they're in Podio. Those 25 are in our Podio system. And that's our acquisitions team there. They're going to be nurturing those, calling them, like doing all this virtually. We've got 3 contracts, right? So out of this here, you see the first stuff there. That's great. And we closed the deal. Fantastic. Couldn't have asked for anything better. But now we've got 3 contracts, right? So now here's where it gets super fun, right? Especially when you know that you have the data. Our ROI on this right now is 1,900%, almost 2,000%. Okay.
That's one of those numbers so high that's not even real. Like that doesn't.
It doesn't like our RVM. Our RVM is just under 1,000. Our cold call is 800%.
Yeah.
So direct mail for us was like 3%.
Yeah.
4% is like you're lucky if you get that as a national average. Like, are you kidding me? So like we've now like we have the 3. We do RVM, cold call, and SMS. And SMS by far is like it's 2,000%, right? Just this month. So this month and last month, I think we're sitting somewhere around 15 or 1,600%. So it's going to fluctuate. But the key here is that like the numbers don't lie. Like this is data, and when you're tracking it, and this has all come from that roller coaster effect that you have, because you want visibility into how to mitigate those down cycles. This is what this is showing us, right? And we've tried different things as well in terms of SMS software, and our numbers haven't been that. So like I like Aaron a lot. I like Bob a lot. And we do business in Georgia. We do business in Texas. So I like but I can like anyone as much as I want to, but if it doesn't work from a business perspective, if it's not making me money, I don't care how much I like you, I'm just not going to do business with you. So, my numbers don't lie. Like I'm going to continue doing business with you guys because our numbers are good. But then there's another important factor, right? And it's really making sure that you're doing the follow-up, because, a calculator or computer can only do so much, right? Like there's also the operator. And so, you've got to make sure as a business that you're following up on these things that REVA is giving you and LaunchControl is doing for you, because if you're not doing that, like if you're the problem then, right? So, there's a lot of different things there, but at the end of the day, like, the key things here that this is providing us is like, consistency, our momentum, right? We can continue, we can scale this up, we can throttle it up, throttle it down, depending on, what's happening. So if we start seeing like a spike in our response rate and a spike in our, our deal flow, like we're going to pull the throttle down. Like we're just going to go for it, right? So it allows for that flexibility for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and let me just touch upon something. There's a common theme here, obviously, Steve, with you and Hunter is as real estate companies, we need to know our numbers, and you guys do a great job of knowing your numbers. Whatever call this is on, I guarantee, no matter what, if we're talking about launch, if we're not talking about launch, whatever it is, you guys know your numbers, and that's a very important thing. I think that I want to make sure nobody misses, because that's something that that will either allow you to stay in business forever or not. Knowing your numbers is extremely important.